What's happening, Tribe? So, some exciting news coming out of Triumph. The Daytona 660 is soon to hit showroom floors. And this is one of the most anticipated motorcycles to come from Triumph in a long time. But anything wearing that Triumph nameplate has got some big shoes to fill. So, I've got my notepad. Let's compare that Daytona 660 to its siblings, the Trident 660 and the Tiger 660 Sport. And well, we're going to have to talk about how it stacks up against the 675 Daytona. So let's dive into it. First of all, 660 cc's is going to get you 93 horsepower at 11,500 RPM, 51 pound-feet of torque at 8,200 RPM. It's got a 12-to-1 compression ratio and 10,000-mile service interval. As far as weight, 443-pound curb weight, also known as wet weight, full of fluids, 3.7-gallon fuel tank. Now, if you want to get the dry weight on that, typical rule of thumb is about 30 pounds, so 413 pounds dry. Tire sizes, well, on a 17-inch wheel, front and rear, you're looking at the standard Flare Sport Bike formula, 120/70s up front, 180/55s out back. Suspension, Showa front and rear. The forks are 41 millimeter upside down with 110 millimeters of travel. Out back, you've got a monoshock with preload adjustment and 130 millimeters of travel. Now, there was no info as far as how adjustable they are, compression, rebound, and etc. But at least we know that much about it. Now, the technology package, you got a full color TFT display with options including a My Triumph connectivity system, which gives you the turn-by-turn navigation compatibility. But the one that we're more concerned with is that quick shifter. And yes, it comes with one as an option at least. You get quick shift on the upshift and auto blip on downshift. I cannot wait to ride this bike. This thing is going to be so much fun. So how does that compare to the Trident and to the Tiger? Well, the Trident and the Tiger have less horsepower to the tune of about 12 less horsepower. And well, guys, in this game, that is a lot less horsepower than this Daytona. 81 horsepower and 47 pound-feet of torque for the Trident and for the Tiger. And I can tell you this, guys, my experience riding the Trident and the Tiger, they're both very lively motorcycles. They have a very strong mid-range punch. And although they don't rev out super hard, they are very fun to ride. In fact, one of the fun parts about riding that Tiger was just so, well, lively that it was. It kind of wanted to spend a lot of its time on the back wheel. And so if that's any indication as far as how this Daytona is going to perform, it is going to be a riot to play around with on the street. Now, where does this bike fall in line with its predecessors? Well, it's kind of difficult to do a straight line of sight comparison. Back when the 675 Daytona was released, it came to the party with nearly 130 horsepower, which is to say a lot more. And about-ish the same amount of torque. But that horsepower number is what guys really gravitate towards. What I don't want to do is turn this into a hardcore comparison between the two. The 660 Daytona is not necessarily geared to the harder core rider the way that the 675 was. The Daytona, fully fared and absolutely dead sexy to look at, is not going to offer up the performance of the old school 675. It's a little bit heavier because, well, it is Euro 5 compliant with all of the emissions restrictions that come with that. And of course, if you fit a aftermarket exhaust and, well, you do a little bit of tuning to the thing, as many of us would do, you can probably get that power number to bump up fairly significantly and get the weight down to where it's a little bit more of a comparison. But even still, I get it. It's not going to be as powerful as the old outgoing 675, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. The new 660 Daytona is going to be perfect for ripping your favorite back road twisties. It's got just the right amount of power to keep it very lively. And again, if that Tiger 660 that I rode is anything to say about it, it's going to have an extremely lively mid-range. meaning you'll be able to power out and power through corners in ways that you may not have been able to with a more powerful motorcycle. So you can read into this, yes, it's a little bit down on horsepower, but that's not always a bad thing. It simply means that you can use a lot more of the throttle when you want to roll in and use the power that you have. Some guys would prefer that it's a little bit more sedate or at least a little bit more punchy through the mid-range because of that riding characteristic. So, to sum it up, I cannot wait to get my hands on one of these bikes, throw a leg over this thing, and bring you guys a first ride impression of it. I think this thing is going to be one of the most fun motorcycles to come from any manufacturer in a long time. I am as giddy as I can possibly be, and I'm trying to get through this thing without completely fangirling out on this bike. For backroad twisties and maybe some moderate track use, this thing is going to be a darling. And guys, when it comes out, I'm hoping to get you guys information on it first. Post up your comments. Let me know what you think about this bike, and we will catch y'all on the next one. That's a wrap. Adios.